Hello, my dear students. I am Priyanka Koiri, your science teacher, and the chapter that we are discussing is heredity and evolution. Okay, so in the previous classes, what we have learned is that accumulation of variation during reproduction. So, in the very first class, I told you that during reproductions, variations get accumulated. Okay, then we discussed that variation is useful for the survival of species over time. Okay, so these small variations are quite useful for the survival of species, but if there is any drastic change, then it may affect the organism. Okay, then we discussed about the rules of heredity determine the process by which traits and characteristics are reliably inherited, right? Then we also discussed about that both the parents contribute equal amount of genetic material to the child. Okay, so here both mother and father contribute DNA to the child. Also we discussed rules of inheritance in case of monohybrid cross and rules of inheritance in case of dihybrid cross. Then we discussed about laws of inheritance which were given by Mendel, who is also known as the father of genetics. Then we also discussed why Mendel selected pea plants. Okay, then we discussed about mechanism of heredity, how actually heredity work. Okay, then we discussed about sex determination in human, how the sex of the child is determined in case of human beings. All these topics were discussed in the previous classes. Okay, today we are going to start about evolution, the second part of this chapter, which is evolution. So we are going to understand evolution using an illustration. Okay, so let us analyze the situation first. Okay, so here we are going to analyze variation in red beetle population. Okay, beetles, you know, these are very small insects. Okay, so here you can see in the left hand side of the picture there is red beetles. Okay, and from this picture, left hand side of the picture, there is arising three different situations. Okay, so what are the three different situations? In situation 1, you can see that there are red beetles and beetles are eaten up by crows. Okay, these birds are nothing but crows. So since the bushes are green and red color is quite visible in the green bushes, the crows can easily pick up the red beetles, and as a result you can see in the last diagram of situation 1, you can see all the red beetles have turned into green beetles. Okay, so here what happened is that from the first diagram you can see there is one green beetle, and this one green beetle has arisen because of variation in reproduction. Because of some variation in reproduction, these red beetles have produced a green beetle. Okay, and since red color beetle is quite visible, okay, is quite visible in the green bushes, the crows have picked or eaten those red beetles, and in green bushes green color beetle is not visible. As a result, it is seen that the number of green beetles have increased slowly, and ultimately the population has turned from red to green in case of situation 1, right? In second situation, you can see there is a variation, okay, from red color beetle to blue color beetle. Okay, now this blue color beetle does not provide any survival advantage to these beetles. Okay, as it is seen in case of situation 1. In situation 1, you can see the green color beetles provided a survival advantage to the beetles, but in situation 2, you can see the blue color beetle is not providing any survival advantage. However, it is seen that all the red color beetles have by mistake come under an elephant's foot. As a result, all the red color beetles are dead now, and what is left is that the blue beetles. Okay, so here by accident, okay, by sudden change, all the red color beetle has turned into blue color beetle in case of situation 2. Now coming to situation 3, here you can see there is no crows here and there is no elephant foot here. Here you can see the red beetles are increasing in number or their size have decreased. It could be due to, since there is no predators for them, okay, so since there is no predators for them, they have multiplied so much that they have exhausted the food, and due to starvation, due to unavailability of the food, they have starved, and for that starving their body weight has decreased, okay. And in the last diagram you can see the beetles have come back to their original shape. It could be due to, because of the availability of food. Once the food is available to them, now they have regained their shape, right? So this is the three different situations that had produced certain variations in a population, okay. So what does this infer? Okay, so what can we conclude from this? From situation 1, we can say that variation became common because it gave survival advantage or it was naturally selected. This advantage, okay, this advantage of being a green beetle was naturally selected. It was not influenced by anyone. It was naturally selected. Thus, natural selection is directing evolution. And this natural selection results in adaptation in beetle population, right? In situation 2, we saw that accidents in small population can change the frequency of some genes in a population even if they give no survival advantage. It provides diversity without adaptation. The second situation, in case of second situation, we learned that because of elephant's foot, okay, the certain frequency of genes, okay, certain frequency of gene is increased, okay, and this increasing of the certain frequency of gene did not provide any survival advantage. It just increased the diversity, okay. This is the notion of genetic drift, okay, clear. Next is situation 3. In situation 3, changes in body without any genetic variation due to environmental factor is not evolution, okay. That means if there is any change in the body where the DNAs are not altered, or if there is no change in the DNA, then it will not lead to evolution. Changes in non-reproductive cells. Non-reproductive cells means those cells which will not take part in reproduction. So changes in those cells, that means non-reproductive cells, are not inheritable, okay. So the first two situation we can see development of variations, right? Development of variation. The situation first was naturally selected and it provided survival advantage to the population, whereas in situation 2 there was variation but it wasn't naturally selected, it was by accident, okay, and it did not provide any survival advantage, okay, clear. Now can you say why don't we consider situation 3 as a matter of evolution? Okay, this was the first situation where crows have eaten those red beetles, okay. This was the second situation where the foot of the elephant has destroyed all the red beetles, okay, and this is the third situation. So can you tell me why in the third situation it is not considered as a matter of evolution? Because the third situation is variation without genetic change, okay. In case of situation 3, you can see there was no change in the DNA of the beetles, okay, and changes in the non-reproductive tissue caused by inherited factors are not inheritable, okay, clear. Now, our next concept is acquired and inherited traits. Okay, so what are acquired and inherited traits? Let us start with acquired traits. Okay, these are those traits that are received by an organism in his or her lifetime due to different conditions. Okay, due to various reasons we acquire certain traits. Okay, those traits are called acquired traits. For example, attack of polio. Okay, an attack of polio. Okay, a man losing his hand due to accident. Suppose in an accident someone loses his hand, so these are the acquired traits. Okay, fine. Now, inherited traits. What are inherited traits? These are those traits that are received by an organism from his or her ancestor through genes. Those traits that we receive from our ancestors through genes, that means through DNA, that are inherited traits. For example, our height, eye color, skin color, etc. Okay. Now, these are our reproductive cells that takes part in case of reproduction. The pink one denotes ovum, that is your female cell, and the blue one denotes your sperm cells, which is also your male cell. So changes in the specialized reproductive tissue of germ cells bring variation. Whenever there is change in the germ cells, okay, in the germ cells of the reproductive tissue, it brings variation. When change in reproductive tissue of germ cell, that means if there is any change in egg or sperm and it is passed on to the progeny, then only evolution arises. Okay, now let us analyze another situation. So these are cute little mice, you can see. Now, if we breed a group of mice, all their progeny will have tails as expected. Okay, mice have tails. So if we are growing, if we are breeding, not growing, we are breeding some group of mice, all their progeny, that means all the children of mice will have tails. Okay, now if the tails of these mice are removed by surgery in each generation, do these tailless mice have tailless progeny? Now, what we are doing is that we are cutting the tails of each mice. Okay, in each generation, if we are cutting the tails of all the mice. Now, now we are thinking that if these tails are removed by surgery, do these tailless mice will have tailless progeny? That means if the father and mother of a mice is tailless, okay, then will it also have no tail? Okay, so this is the question. So what do you think? The answer is no. Okay, it makes sense because removal of tail, okay, we are removing the tail of the mice, that is, it is an acquired trait. This trait, okay, or this whatever this feature is acquired in the lifetime of the mice. Okay, so it makes sense because removal of tail, that is, which is an acquired trait, cannot change the genes of the germ cell of the mice. So this cutting of tail has not changed the genes, okay, not changed the DNA of the mice, right? Acquired traits cannot pass on to the next generation. We cannot pass on the acquired trait to the next generation. Suppose if a man is without hand, it does not mean that his children will also be born without hand, right? This is what it means to say. So it is important to inherit genes to bring evolution. Suppose if we change the DNA of the mice so that it doesn't have tail, if we do that, then it may happen that the next generation will be tailless. But since we have not altered the DNA of the mice, okay, that means we have not altered the genes of the mice, as a result the progeny will always have tail. But if we have altered it, then only we will get tailless mice. So in this case, we have not altered the genes, as a result we are not getting tailless mice. Okay, now let us try to recall what we have studied. We discussed about evolution, an illustration with an example we tried to understand what is evolution. Okay, and we discussed about acquired and inherited traits. Now that's all for today's class. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next class.